Hello and welcome to this Jane's Weather Update. It is Friday the 23rd of May. We've got a big weather system over the southeast. There's another one coming over the southwest. We're about to see something come in from the northwest. So let's unpack all of that. Here is the situation as we have it this morning. Let's zoom into the southeast first of all. So I'll just pop in through there. You can see the big rainfall totals. That's in the 24 hours to 9 a.m. Some up around the 180 marks, a lot over 100 there, 100 to 200 millimetres. You can also see that it has now finally cleared Coffs Harbour, down to Port Macquarie, down to almost to Newcastle there and inland as well. So all of that is now in the clear. We still definitely have the flooding that is happening with that though. Here is the big area of rain that's coming in through here and the severe weather warning that is now only for the south coast, those areas south of Sydney. So that's where that situation is now. Another thing to point out, this one over in the west here, that's an upper level low from what is actually controlling this weather system. So if you think about what you see on the surface there, these are the puppets, the strings up and high, and that is all of that swirling around, producing that rain as well. Now that is starting to come into Victoria. It won't be the big falls that we saw in New South Wales, and it will just graze Tasmania on its way past. So there it is, all very slowly heading southwards as the day goes on. Let's have a look over on the other side of the country, and we'll pop into Western Australia here so you can see all these lovely rainfall totals coming through. Haven't had a lot of wet weather in this area for a while, so this one was a nice change. It was very welcome. We had the biggest falls near that southwest coast, and then they decreased pretty much as they went inland, but a nice little handy fall to come through. All of that will clear as the day goes on, but look at that speckled cloud in behind it. Those warm and dry 26s that Perth has had, there's none of that today. There'll be a definite chill in the air. All right, so let's have a look at moving forward. So here we go. We'll just set this up correctly. We've got, we want our rain total. I'll just pop that through to the end of the time here, and we'll go to the end of Friday night. So there we go. This is what's coming. We've got a big system that's coming in through the northwest, though. All that warm water up in the top there, that is going to be coming down across into here. Will it connect with the southeast? Unfortunately, no, in the next week. That is not likely to happen. Here's the remains of that southeastern system. So this is the last day of that in New South Wales, moving through Victoria just into Tasmania. Otherwise, systems are crossing across the bight and coming into the southeast. We'll explain those in a bit more detail shortly. And then there's another system set to knock on the western door as we go about a week's time from now. All right, so let's have a look at the daily rain potential. We'll go through each day. You can see it in that top left there and what the totals are. So anything that is in yellow is 15 to 25 millimetres, higher and lower. Green is 5 to 15. Here's the rest of that rainfall for New South Wales, a clearing thing today. Here's what we're having in Victoria, just brushing Tasmania as it comes past. Here's what was moving through the southwest there, and just a little line of rain that is starting to come in there. We'll watch that grow in the days ahead. Here is Friday. Let's move into Saturday. Look at New South Wales. We're taking a break across the weekend. It's been a big week, and now it is finally break time. Here's that weather system crossing the bight. It's just going to clip the coast in through here. This one is the remains of that system moving away and does hit Tasmania, this one, as it comes in from the west. So that's Saturday, but the cold front that is here, it just slides away. So let's have a look at Sunday. There you go. There's nothing left of it in the southeast. It just hits that western part of Tasmania. However, this is the next weather system in through here. This one actually has some low pressure in it. Look at that 984 as the middle of that low. This one is going to do something for us. However, here's our break also in New South Wales. So the conditions are settling down. Looking up to the northwest, there's a nice big pool of moisture that's coming in through there. Will that connect with the southeast? Those lovely, juicy northwest cloud bands, that's the start of one of these. But the timing of this southern system and the high pressure, I keep banging on about high pressure for a reason, because it is blocking us. Here it is in this system right across the country here. So there's a big band of it that's running right on through. We've got a lovely system to the south. We've got a lovely moisture up to the northwest. What happens here? They don't really connect. This one comes in a little bit too late, as this one is already moving through. There's a hint of a connection there, but look at this broad ridge of high pressure that's running in through there. That is stopping that connection from happening. We get a little bit of it, but not a lot. So this is as it comes through on Monday. You're getting falls in through here. So the western side of the ranges rather than the east. It's a system that comes from the west. You've got this coming up here, and that's some pretty cold air that is in behind it too. So this is southeast and South Australia and that coastline. It is the southwestern parts of Victoria, but inland less falls because we don't have that connection to moisture. So if you're in the inland parts of South Australia, the northwestern part of Victoria, you're not going to see a lot from this one. You'll get a little bit, but not a lot. You need this connection to make it a lot. Then that moves over, it picks up again as it moves into the western side of the ranges and delivers all of those falls over those parts of New South Wales and into Tasmania as well. Right, so there's Monday. Here we have Tuesday, all of that moving through. The low is now out over the Tasman Sea. We're in a cold air mass, wintry showers, gusty winds. Haven't seen that over the southeast for a while. So there's no frost from this one. This is just a cold winter air mass. Here's all of that beautiful rain coming into the northwest, but this big fat high that is sitting there acting like a stop sign does not let that come down here at this stage. All right, so there is that moving through. Cold air from that one extending right up the coast. As we go into Wednesday, here's all that lovely wet weather, high pressure, stopping it from coming down to here. We've got the drigs and drabs that are coming through at the end of that system, and that's going to take a couple of days to clear out because the high is very, very strong over the bight there. Again, starting to warm up in Western Australia again because the high is sitting in through here. Moving into Thursday, this one, instead of coming down to the southeast, high pressure is blocking it. It's going to go to Queensland instead. So here it is through Thursday and then into Friday, the last bits of that moving through. There's that into this one. It's not the huge weather system that came through last time. Yes, it is for the northwest, but not by the time it gets through to Queensland. So yes, it'll be rain, but it won't be something ridiculous like last time. Here's the high pressure system sitting here by the end of Friday, and here is the next weather system coming in. Now, this one is interesting. This is being pushed in from the northwest. You've got all of this here. There's a lovely little low that's coming in. We'll just move into Saturday. So there's a low here and then here. Interesting. What have we got there? We've got high pressure that is out to the east. So we've got some wet weather along the coast there. We've got warmer conditions coming down into the southeast. But all of this that is over in the southwest there and that connection to the northwest, finally, there's no pressure, there's no high pressure that is sitting there as a block in between. Is this the little system that could? It's not overly a little system. Look how big it is. But this is something on the horizon that may not be just a coastal feature or just a New South Wales feature or just a Queensland feature. This might be the one that could. All right, so that's something definitely not set in stone. I wouldn't, trust everything. It's too far away. But just the beginning of this is some type of glimmer of hope to come through as we get out of this terrible May and move into June. All right, let's have a look. So on the Euro mapping, this is for next week, starting on the 26th of May. So that's Monday. It's got this little bit that's coming through as the remainder of that weather system. It's got all of that juicy moisture that's coming into the northwest, but it is going, no, there is definitely a block there. This one is not coming down into the southeast. So I've got a system that comes through, only delivering bigger than usual falls for these parts here. All right, that's the first week. Having a look at the Bureau's take on that. I almost don't even want to show you this map. They're on drugs. I've got no idea what's actually going on in through here. So this is the latest data. It was run on the 19th. Surely it knows about this weather system coming in from the northwest by now. That is weird. Let's not even look at this one. The Euro seems to have it under control based on what we talked about then. This coming in from the northwest, the blocks thanks to the high, and the remains of this one coming in. Let's go into week 2. Hello, here we are. Welcome to June. Monday, the 2nd of June, for the first week of that, there is green across a large part of the country, which is very, very exciting. So very different from this one here, where it's only a tiny bit. Does this mean that, yes, that western system can actually spread right on through because the high pressure is finally moving on out of the way? So this may be our future, but it's still a long way out. It's the first week of June. Okay, let's have a look at whether the Bureau thinks that is okay. What have they got here? We've got this business over here, which makes sense coming in from the west there with that system that is building. They don't have it moving across to the southeast. So the Australian model says no to that one. Let's focus on the Euro model. It definitely had a handle on the first week, whereas the Australian model didn't. And this is looking quite nice. So definitely not set in stone. It never is that far out, but this is something that's on the horizon that does actually have the potential to do some good things. Okay, Let's have a look at SAM. Southern annular mode. This is the thing that says whether we get troughs and lows or whether we get strong cold fronts. It has been positive for a very long time. Now, majority positive. Occasionally dips down into that negative there and you get a strong cold front come through, which is this one that's coming through early next week. But for the majority of the time, it's sitting there in positive. Now, what that does is ensure that, here we go, let's take a look at the weather pattern here. So, having a look where we are, so we've got Friday early and late, Saturday early and late, and we'll go down early, late, day, starting with Friday. Here's that big system that is crossing the bight there. Here is our low that is coming in that has produced all of that severe wet weather. The high is sitting here and it's angling just enough that that low can come down. Now, it can't go right through to the western parts of Victoria or into South Australia because that ridge of high pressure that's running in through there is still acting like a block. It's moving out of the way just enough so that the low can come in, but it's still there. So it's still stopping those systems from coming through. So high pressure in these two things here is still the dominant thing that is in control. We're getting that low come in. We've got this cold front. It's big. It's done great things for southwest, but watch that come across and then just dissipate and completely disappear as we go into the early hours of Sunday. So it'll knock on the door and go, nope, high pressure, it's too strong. I have no business being here, and it'll fall away. What it does kind of do is essentially fall on its sword. So it does the fighting and then it dies, but it allows the next one to come through and it kind of paves the way for that one to come in. So here we have on Sunday a big, huge system over here. It's got another low that develops in behind it, cold front, trough in behind, and there we are by the end of Monday. So that is that first system that comes in. Again, no connection to tropical moisture, so inland parts, no. But as it moves into that western parts of New South Wales on the ranges, it increases and it moves across southeastern parts of South Australia, southern parts of Victoria, and particularly western and northern parts of Tasmania. That's the areas that are going to see the most out of this one. And then the cold air will work its way up the coast there. But again, this high pressure is in control. And so what we're seeing is our troughs and lows deliver for the northeastern half of the country, but they don't quite get into the dry parts of the southeast because that high pressure is blocking them from coming in. It's also blocking these strong cold fronts from coming up when we can actually get them. So this one here, if it is positive, that means that we continue like we have been. But essentially what we're waiting for is those highs to actually move, and that system in that first week of June could be the one that actually does it. All right, let's now have a look at our sea surface temperature anomaly. Interesting things are happening here. There is some blue that has been fairly persistent now over the last month. That is something to watch. Otherwise, all warm around here for Australia. This one here, we're now starting to see some blue that is just coming in there. That has been yellow for a very long time. Now we're starting to see some blue coming into that Indian Ocean box. That is something to watch. Over in the Pacific, we've got lots of yellow that is appearing there. The blue is weakening, but we've got all of this warm water in the Pacific off Queensland here. That is our offset to that moisture. Let's have a look at the forecast. We'll start with the Pacific. Is just flat, it is bland, there is nothing happening here, nothing to see. Essentially, the Pacific Ocean is not doing anything for us. It's not pushing the moisture away, it's not pushing it towards us. So the Pacific Ocean, just nothing much happening this year. It's just sitting there in neutral. Indian Ocean, however, ooh, look at this one. So we're now starting to come down. We've got that little bit of blue that is appearing in that box over there, so very exciting. And now the forecast is suggesting that it's heading down in through here. We love a negative Indian Ocean dipole. If you want rain, you love a negative Indian Ocean dipole. Yes, we need the high pressure systems to move out of the way, but this is something that should hopefully encourage that to happen. So it's kind of like this guy talks to this guy and works with this guy, and they all work together to actually produce rain over the southeastern parts of the country. So this we like. This is good. What we like to see also is that's starting to go into it. So we were talking about it as a forecast for a while. Now we're starting to see that transition, that change in that ocean. This here is very, very exciting. That is something to keep an eye on. How do you keep an eye on that? You head to the seasonal page. This updates every day. Watch that blue grow, and that'll be the thing that changes what's happening. All right. So here we have the Indian Ocean. Here we are in July. It's crossing that threshold. What this does is encourage those juicy northwest cloud bands when they can meet up with low pressure in the southeast. we're very, very happy chappies because we've got widespread rain across a very large area. So this is pointing in that direction. All right, let's take a bit of a whip around the country and have a look at what's happening. We're starting with Sydney today. I've only got a couple of spots that are up there. Here is the last of the rain. So the Euro model, let me just put this out so you're clear. The Euro is the green colour in there. That one has got big falls still happening here. What sort have we got? Let's just move across back over here. Is it still raining in Sydney? Let's take a squeeze. Yes, it most certainly is. So here we are. We've still got the rest of that, but we're nearly at the back edge of that. So that will be clearing as the afternoon goes on. All dry by tonight. And then across the weekend, lovely, not a millimetre in sight, so it is dry finally here, and that is for Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie and all of those areas to the north. There is no more rain coming for the moment. Into next week, look at our temperatures take a dive. So here's that cold air coming up the coast on Tuesday. So you'll feel that. Not necessarily in terms of wet weather, because we're on the dry side of the ranges on the east there, but you'll feel the chill in the air. Let me guess, the dew point by here, what is that? Dew point, where are we? Dew point, down on 7. So yeah, that'll be some pretty chilly air that comes up from the south. All right, let's have a look at Melbourne. Opposite situation. We've got the rain that is coming over the ranges, so not like we've seen in New South Wales. They're on the right side of the ranges to get all of that rainfall. As we move into the Melbourne part of things, it's on the southern side of the ranges, so it naturally dries up as it heads across. It's going to make it harder to get heavier falls out of this one because you've essentially got a block there. You've got the block from the high, you've got the block from the ranges. There's all these things are saying try to not make it rain. So this does have some rainfall on it, but I wouldn't expect anything big out of this one today. But yes, there may be patchy light rain that is coming through for much of the time during the afternoon and the grey skies that come with it. So we've got that activity out there. It's going to be start, stop, but in a sort of slower fashion because it's widespread rain, and I just don't think it will add up to very much in the rain gauge. That goes through to the early hours of Saturday, and then it stops. So all of that moves away off the coast. Tomorrow, the wind picks up. Haven't seen that for a while, but temperatures will rise. There'll be some sunny breaks in there. So Saturday during the day is looking nice. The next weather system to come up, you saw that one crossing the bight, but then going not falling sword and dissipating and falling away. That's all we're getting out of that one. So that's hardly anything, and it's overnight. You might not even know that it occurred, unless you're up late on Saturday night. As we go into Sunday, looking lovely, lots of sunshine. Now, let's move through to early next week. That 20 is the start of the day. Then temperatures plummet as soon as that front comes through, and you've got all of this wet weather coming in. Now, look how long it is going to be with us for. Here's Tuesday, here is Wednesday, here is Thursday, and it even keeps going to Friday as well, and maybe even Saturday. So that is your typical wintry pattern where it is day after day of showers just streaming through. If you're in the eastern suburbs, they'll add up to a bit. If you're in the western suburbs, they won't add up to very much because they're coming from the southwest, and that's what terrain does. So that's what we have in through there. Let's jump and have a look at Adelaide, because here we have sunshine today into Saturday. We've got a little bit from that weather system that tries to do things, falls on its sword and falls away. So just a little bit from that one as it comes in. All clear by Sunday, but here we have Monday. 28 is the current average across those weather models. Now, is it one that's big and another one that's little? No, not so much. The range, 16 to 46. Hey, that means all models like something happening here. Let's unpack this. Let's spread it out. Yep, we've got each and every colour in there, and we love to see this 60s and 80%. That's the good stuff. That means all of the models are on the same page. Some of them are heavier than others, but all of them like some wet weather coming through. And we saw that it was around the 25 millimetre mark, and that's what we're looking at there. So Monday is southeast and South Australia, Adelaide included. Some wet weather coming through. Not inland, but yes, near the coast where that cold front is. All right, now, is this a chilly system? Yes, I've been mentioning that on our snow page. How do you get to it? Just in through here. Just a quick thing, if you're looking at long range, so that sea surface temperature anomaly and that Indian Ocean forecast, you can find that here. The maps of day-by-day rainfall, that one is here under maps, and soon to be those nice images that have the radar, satellite, all those observations. that's where they'll be living soon. But snow, if you're interested in alpine stuff, this is where it is. I do a blog post every couple of days. So yes, this is our proper burst of snow, Monday into Tuesday. How to read these, but here are the snowfall ranges. Let's not use the R word. Let's just pick Mount Hotham first of all. We'll go in and take a look at that. So it's calculating all of those 4 different weather models. It's adjusting to be, the local observations from there, and now it is displaying the forecast. Now, what we have here is 6 millimeters. Where's my voice gone? We've got a hint of one model having some snow in it later today, so that's not overly likely with what we've got in the system at the moment. But into Saturday, that moves through. Sunday, here's the good stuff. Monday into Tuesday. The average is 12 and 13. That's a nice, healthy little snowfall. Just under 2 weeks from the opening of the season. So it is the strong cold front that could. It's got the ranges there. It doesn't have that tropical moisture connection, but it's got the ranges to help it out and low pressure. So it's also got lots of cold air. So it's got some good ingredients in this one here. Let's move into Monday and have a look. It does start off as rain. Then the cold air arrives later on in the day. So yes, it starts off as rain. It changes to snow and then it comes through. There'll be some very big winds with this one as well. Huge winds with that. And we're looking at snow going down to 13, 12, just go a little bit lower. No, about that point. So then that moves into Tuesday. We keep going a little bit there on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But Monday night into Tuesday is the main part for that. All right, I will catch you next week. Bye.